Hey, welcome back to Hobbies with Jose, everyone. Today we've got part one of our customization, or more of a repaint, of the Transformers Back to the Future collaboration, Gigawatt. Let's go. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. It's great to have you back. And today we are starting our new journey in customizing Gigawatt. As always, we're going to start with the disassembly process, but before we do that, let's talk a little bit about what customizations we're going to do, because I actually don't think there's going to be many. You know, with just about every prior custom that I've done, I've been much more concerned with the bot mode than I have been with the alt mode. A lot of them I don't even keep the transformation just to get rid of the cable, but Gigawatt's going to be very different because, one, I'm absolutely going to keep the transformation. I don't want to lose that DeLorean, and two, he doesn't really have a lot of cable to speak of, so there isn't going to be a lot of modification to do on this figure. I think the main thing I'm going to be doing really is just plugging up the peg holes on the arms. There is, however, one little detail I want to modify on this figure. On the back of the DeLorean, with all of the time cables and circuitry, this piece on top is supposed to represent a bar that runs across the top of the DeLorean, and in the bottom, it's really just supposed to be hollow, not really much there. Because of the limitations of the molding process, though, they really couldn't do that. So it's all just kind of one piece sticking up on top here. I'm going to try to cut into the bottom section and sand it down so it does look hopefully a little bit better, just like a bar running across the top. Now, the same thing happened with these cables that connect to the black piece here. You see just the plastic just running all the way down the bottom, but I don't think I'm going to cut into this, only because it's going to make it a lot more delicate. The cables just being a thin piece of plastic running up on top, I don't think the plastic can survive me cutting into the bottom just to leave a thin piece of plastic running across the top. So I'm going to leave these sections be. But that's really all the customizing I plan on doing. So with that said, unlike the movies, let's try to carefully disassemble this piece. Now, normally I start the disassembly process with the relatively easy ball joints, but on this figure, because the head doesn't have a lot of access to get a firm grip, so I'm going to hold off on this piece. I do think the gull wing doors can be popped off. There we go. All right. Not too difficult. Going to work on this pin afterwards. Okay, this just took me an hour of off-camera banging to get off. Not easy, not easy. Still got one more to do. definitely the tiniest pen I've seen yet. I did go ahead and reinsert that tiny pen only because this entire section for the most part remains unseen. I may just paint these little parts here which are inside the wheel wells. I was hoping that this back piece separated into two sections so I had better access to paint the details inside, but unfortunately I don't see any other screws. Looks like it's just glued together, so I'm gonna have to do the best I can once I get to the painting part and try to get these details underneath. Also, for the flux capacitor section, I was hoping there would be an easier way to split it open so I can gain access and paint the actual flux capacitor, but again, it looks like it's glued together, and I don't know if I want to try and risk splitting it open since this piece is clear, so it can break on me, but I don't know, we'll have to see. Okay, so I did go ahead and hammer into the sides with a small flathead screwdriver, trying not to cause too much damage, but I did go ahead and get it separated. Alright, so at this point we have Gigawatt for the most part disassembled. I'm going to go ahead and start the process of stripping off the paint by putting all the pieces in my mason jar with my stripping solution, but I'm not going to put all the pieces in. There are some paint sections that I want to preserve, like the license plate on the back of the DeLorean. So what I'm going to do is to only partially insert this back section as to make sure that the license plate isn't touching the solution. Same thing with this chest piece that's entirely out of clear plastic and it has a window showing us the flux capacitor. I don't want to mess up any of the dates that are printed on here too. And lastly, for the gold wing doors, I did attempt to remove the clear plastic for the windows. Wasn't able to do so though. It looks like it's glued up on top, and unfortunately I did snap off a piece of the gray plastic, but I'll be able to glue that back on. I just need to make sure that I strip off the black paint here. So I may use the same method where I'm only partially dipping it into the stripping solution, or I might just do it by hand since it's not a lot of paint. But as for everything else here, let's drop it in the jar. I'll let these sit in here for about a half hour and then we'll come back and check on them. We are back 30 minutes later and we're ready to empty our contents into an old container here. Next, I'm going to spray them down with some all-purpose cleaner and brush off the excess paint just with an old toothbrush. So at this point we got most of the paint off of our pieces. Still a little bit of residual paint that got left over on some sections. Always a bit tough to get off, but I'm not going to worry about that too much. We'll still be able to paint over that. Next week we'll go ahead and get those few modifications done that we talked about and get our piece primed up and ready for color. So hope you can all join me for that. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Take care.